Hello and welcome to the Chose Head Podcast, man. I'm your host, Darian Harris. Darian Chill on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Follow me on all those platforms, please. But man, we have a lot to talk about in this week 4 NFL recap, man. Man, there was some big time games, some big time headlines this past Sunday. So let's go ahead and hop right into this, man, because man, the Bears, Giants, Bengals, and Jets really moved me in many different ways this past Sunday. So let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals first. I've made videos about this on TikTok already. So for those who don't know, please follow me on that platform so you can catch out, a shorter form of my take on this. But I think the Cincinnati Bengals are in a very troublesome spot right now, right? They lost 27-3 to the Tennessee Titans after a very, once again, embarrassing performance by their offense, right? Joe Burrow so far this season has been terrible. And Zach Taylor's offense so far has been one of the worst offenses in the NFL, right? Of course, it comes down to the health of Joe Burrow. At this point, he has become a liability, in my opinion, right? I think it's too late for him to be sitting out for the remainder of the year because they have some, meaningful games coming up. But he shouldn't have been starting to begin this season. Jamar Chase made note of this during the preseason, also during training camp when he initially strained his calf. He said that he didn't want to see Joe Burrow until about week 5 or week 6 of the NFL season. Well, now we are here entering week 5 of the NFL season. The Bengals are currently 1-3, and they are one of the most underwhelming teams in the AFC right now. And it's due to large part of their offense, man. I mean, Joe Burrow currently ranks amongst quarterbacks in the NFL with the lowest passer rating. He's last in passing yards for quarterbacks that played the first 4 games. He has the 5th worst QBR. He's tied for the least amount of touchdowns in the NFL with 2, and he also has the lowest yards per attempt. And of course, like I previously mentioned, his Bengals offense is terrible all around. They are last in the NFL points per game, averaging 12.5. So, I mean, Zach Taylor has to hold his end of the bargain as well. I mean, at some point as a head coach, do you not just sit your quarterback down? Like, I understand that you're a competitor, but at this point, man, we don't believe you're good enough to operate this offense well. I mean, he even came out himself though on contrary to that. I can't how you say that word? My goodness, contrary, however you say it. But regardless of the fact, though, he came out and mentioned that we believe that Joe Burrow gives us the best chance to operate this offense, which in my opinion is a bit worrisome as well because they didn't do a good job of adding a quarterback to this offense this past offseason, right? You had guys like Mike White on the board. You had guys like Carson Wentz out there as well. You could have brought in a serviceable QB2, but you didn't. So now they're stuck in the mud. Jamar Chase is frustrated. He has come out saying that, hey, after the game, I'm effing open, right? It's not my basically saying it's not my problem, really. You know what I'm saying? I'm always open. It's not really me. It's just, more deeper than that. And obviously it is, right? Joe Burrow's become a one-read quarterback. This offensive line has gotten even worse given the fact that Joe Burrow is not even evasive or mobile at all anymore. Orlando Brown Jr. has been a terrible free agency pickup, and Jonah Williams is still pretty bad. And the rest of his linemen in general have not progressed as well. The run game is okay, in my opinion. It's not, a world beater, but Joe Mixon is still getting some pretty solid yards per carry on his attempts. And I think they need to get their RB2 and Chase Brown and Chase Brown. I mean, I forgot the RB2 name. I think his last name is like Williams or something like that. He used to be a former Texas A&M running back. But the rookie running back Chase Brown needs to get more involved. I mean, they just got to figure out some ways to make this offense more efficient going forward, right? And that comes back down to coaching. I don't think Zach Taylor should be calling these games like Joe Burrow is 100% when obviously it's not. But on the flip side of that, Joe Burrow needs to play better. If you're going to be out there, you got to play better, man. I'm not making any more excuses for him because right now he's playing like one of the worst statistical quarterbacks in the NFL right now, even though we all know he's not like that, man. We understand that he has played like a top 2 quarterback in his league, top 3 comfortably. And it's pretty uh unfortunate that he is playing like a, terrible product right now. So, going forward, what should the Bengals do? Just ride it out. I mean, at this point, they just got to stick it out. Hopefully it comes together sooner or later, right? And just, make this offense even more easier than it probably once was, even with Joe Burrow in the lineup, man, because defenses are understanding, like I've already mentioned, that he's a one-read quarterback right now. He's not looking to move off his other targets because he is not able to really maneuver in a weak pocket right now. So, very unfortunate. I had the Bengals being my Super Bowl contender this year. As of right now, man, they are gearing themselves up for a potential top 5 pick. And I think this could be the tip of the iceberg for this current core of this Bengals team being over with, right? I think T. Higgins will no longer be there after this season. He's had a rough start to the season. He is due for a contract extension. I don't think the Bengals are going to bring him back. I think Joe Mixon could be going as well. I think they'll bring back Jamar Chase, of course, on a lucrative deal. But there's definitely going to be some changes on this Bengals team if they continue to have a bad season, right? Defensively, though, I mean, Lou Anarumo still has his team juiced up, right? They're arguably a top 10 defense in the NFL, and it's being wasted right now due to some bad offense and quarterback play, unfortunately, man. So season's not over yet, man. They can still figure this out. They're only 1-3. Of course, they're dead last in the division, but they can still figure this out, man. But until proven otherwise, you kind of just have to figure that as of right now, it's not going to get any better, and then it'll continue to be a very underwhelming and bad product. So moving on, though, I want to speak about the Chicago Bears. They're another team that I had some solid expectations on entering the season, but a quarter through, they're obviously winless. And Matt Eberflus, sooner or later, will be fired, right? I think Ryan Poles will make the executive decision here soon, especially as the season gets underway, right? As we get more games in, as they get more comfortable with their top two draft picks potentially. The Bears are just a terrible product, man. They're obviously the worst coach team in the NFL. I don't understand how you blow a three touchdown lead in the NFL, man. I know there's some high powered offenses out there, of course. It's a new modern day in this league, but the Broncos are also one of the worst teams in the NFL. So how'd you let that happen after an amazing start to the game by Justin Fields, man? In that third quarter, most notably at the end and beginning of the fourth quarter, they played really hesitant. They played scared. They played soft. They played conservative, and they played not to lose instead of playing to win. And I hate when coaches do that because that shows me signs of bad overall coaching. Like I said, Fields had a magnificent start to the game, but when it was time for him to put together a game-winning drive or a game-tying drive to go in overtime, he couldn't do it. Right? He had a pick that sealed the game, of course, and also prior to that pick, a few possessions before that, he had a costly fumble that resulted into momentum swinging heavily into the Broncos side. So, it's just unfortunate, but I think the writing's on the wall, man. I think Caleb Williams is going to be the next quarterback for the Chicago Bears. I think Matt Eberflus will be gone. They'll be hiring a new head coach here soon after this season as well. And I think this, as we know it, for Justin Fields and his time with the Bears is over with. I don't think he gets traded midseason. I think they move on from him after the year. But it's not because he's a bad quarterback. I think he's a very good quarterback still. I just don't believe he fits this scheme. I don't believe he fits this system. I don't believe he fits this organization. He needs a fresh start somewhere else, man, because they pretty much ruined this young quarterback's mental, his mindset, and his play as of right now, because he's not even playing like Fields we saw later in late last season, right? He's not running the ball, making these plays, being that dual threat quarterback we all know he can be. He's not even trying to do that this year, man. He's standing in the pocket trying to make throws down the field. And sometimes most quarterbacks in the NFL are not ready for that, man. In year 3 of Jalen Hurts, we saw him running around making plays. Right now in year 4, we're seeing him diagnose offenses, defenses more and making throws down the field. But I feel like they need to take the load of Justin Fields offensively a lot more and let him just go out there in free form and let him do whatever he needs to do to get the job done. But unfortunately, not doing that, man. It's pretty much killed his confidence, man. So, I'm pretty sure he'll pick it up. He'll have those big time rushing games sooner or later because at some point he's going to say, fuck it. I want to get this team to victory at some point during the season. And it could happen this week against the Jets. Or no, they play the Commanders. It could happen this Thursday against the Commanders, but I doubt it, right? The Commanders are a very hot team right now entering this Thursday night football matchup. So, it's unfortunate, man. A very young quarterback in his league with a terrible franchise that has pretty much shown us nothing in their tenure of producing quarterbacks and putting success around them, right? The best quarterbacks they've had in the last 30 years have been Jay Cutler and Rex Grossman. And of course, they had better defenses to lean on. And we all know the Bears defense is one of the worst, if not the worst in the NFL alongside the Denver Broncos, man. So, like I said, very unfortunate for the Bears right now, man. I know it's very frustrating as a fan. I was once there as a Jaguars fan, but I tell you this, man, once you get a legit franchise quarterback in there and a team and coach believes in him, the more the merrier, man. It's going to happen sooner or later. So, like I said, Ryan Poles has some big decisions to make here soon. I think most notably, I think they should fire Luke Jexty after this Thursday night football matchup. And as the season gets going, I'm pretty sure Matt Eberflus will be fired as well. But also for Ryan Poles, man, I think he needs to be held accountable as well. I mean, he's done really nothing too crazy to make me believe that he should be leading the future of the rebuild for this Bears squad as well. I mean, yeah, he was able to get the extra draft pick from the Chicago Bears, from the Carolina Panthers, and also he got DJ Moore, of course, right? A receiver that the next quarterback in line can really, you know, be able to lean on. But the defensive pickups have not performed well whatsoever so far this season. The Chase Claypool thing has been a disaster as well. And yeah, I mean, he's just not been able to really um, put together a good enough product to win football games in this league. So we'll see what happens, though. You know what I'm saying? I'm always a firm believer in giving a young GM time to really make something shake. He's being aggressive and he's trying his hardest. So we'll see what happens going forward. But I do believe Justin Fields and Matt Eberflus will not be in the picture this time next year, man. It's very unfortunate because I do believe Fields has some potential to be very special in this league. It just won't be in Chicago. So, moving on to the Houston Texans real quick, I want to speak about them. I talked about them in the last podcast about the Jaguars recap. I mean, this Texans team is doing some unprecedented things right now, man. They're doing something that's very rare, but also very simple. We talk about it all sign and hindsight. Well, this team should have drafted this quarterback. This team should have hired this new head coach. This team should have hired this new OC. Well, in one offseason, the Texans did that all together, right? And that's something amazing to see, right? The up and coming Houston Texans are on the rise right now, man. They're one of the most surprising and fun teams in the NFL currently. And that's due to a large part of hiring DeMeco Ryans, right? He was a shoo-in fit with this organization. They drafted a quarterback and Stroud, who I'm glad they did, man. It was so much rumors about, well, they won't draft Stroud because, David Mugheleta and Deshaun Watson, they the same player and same athletes first agency. The Texans are not going to try for another athletes first client. Well, I'm glad they did because the CJ Stroud is the real deal, man. He is playing like rookie Justin Herbert, and he might exceed rookie Justin Herbert stats, right? He's playing amazing football, and this Texans team is rolling right now. I mean, this offense is fun to watch. It's creative. They're moving the pocket. This Texans line has missed some key starters, most notably Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil. They're two best offensive linemen, and they're playing well without them defensively. They don't have Derek Stingley out there. They don't have Jalen Petrie, and they're still finding ways to hold out teams and really shut them out offensively as well as the Jaguars and also the Pittsburgh Steelers this past Sunday. So the Texans are a very fun team, man. I mean, I'm not sure how long this can keep up. They got a tough game coming up against the Falcons, I think. I mean, the Falcons are a really tough team to face at home. But who knows, man? They might win this game and start the season out 3-2 through the first 5 weeks, and something no one, in my opinion, had on their bingo card entering this NFL season, man. So, ups to the Texans, DeMeco Ryans, Nick Casario, man. They're doing some special things out there. The future's really bright out there in H-Town. Continuing on, let's talk about the New York Jets, man. Of course, they were the headliner of Sunday Night Football, not because of the New York Jets being the Jets. It was because of Taylor Swift was there alongside the media and the NFL attention with the Kansas City Chiefs coming to MetLife and facing off against his Jets team. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift were the topic of conversation the entire game leading up. And throughout the game, it was a bit, but then Zach Wilson started playing some really good football, man. Something we haven't seen probably in his career so far in the NFL. I love what I saw from the kid, man. I mean, he played with so much confidence. He played with intensity. He played with anticipation. He has looked really comfortable out there, man. And that's due to large part Nathaniel Hackett just capping off or taking the cap off this offense and letting him go out there and just play quarterback, man. Let him go out there and win this game. Don't handicap him. Let him go out there and do the best he can. And he did that, man. I think the run game looked pretty solid with Breece Hall, of course. The offensive line did a very good job of blocking Zach Wilson for the most part. And Garrett Wilson was big time. Alan Lazar was big time, as well as the tight ends, Conklin and Uzuma. So going forward, I think Jets fans should feel a little confident with this offense. And of course, their defense is still playing spectacular for the rest of the season, right? I still think they can get a wild card spot, man. I really do. Especially if the so-called Aaron Rodgers return is quicker than was suspected. I'm still kind of on the fence about that, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, man. I mean, shout out to Zach Wilson. I mean, he played unbelievable. It's arguably his best game of his career. Unfortunately, it did end, or his possession ended in a botched fumble on a snap. But other than that, man, he played lights out. And in my opinion, he outperformed Patrick Mahomes. And speaking of Patrick Mahomes, so far this Chiefs offense still this season, in my opinion, has not shown us anything to really make us believe that they're going to get back to winning the championship. The defense has been world class so far this year, but at some point, this offense get going. I mean, they face the Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders up next, so that should be some good, and Vikings as well. That should be some good pick me up games to really get this offense going. But so far, you could definitely tell they're missing the presence of Eric Bieniemy, who's having some major success out there in Washington right now. Matt Nagy isn't doing anything special in my opinion in the play calling. I think the run game has been a lot better than the years past. Isaiah Pacheco's been running the ball with some really good anticipation, running the ball with a purpose. And I love what I'm seeing from the kid. And I think they should lean more on that to open up their passing attack because so far Travis Kelce's been pretty much boxed in as well this season. Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney have done nothing. MVS is a deep threat, but they don't even take enough shots to give him the ball, in my opinion. And also Rasheed Rice is very young. He could be their feature receiver, but they got to do something in our receiving core. Maybe that's a trade for Mike Evans or possibly Devontae Adams. Who knows? Probably far fetched for Adams, but regardless of the fact, though, they got to find a receiver they can rely on in these games, man, because outside of Travis Kelce, if he's getting boxed in, man, this offense is really hard to watch. And as we saw this past Sunday, Patrick Mahomes arguably had one of the worst games in his career, in my opinion. He threw 3 interceptions, under 20 yards passing. The Jets defense did a very good job of containing him. They got some sacks off as well. And, they were a few plays away from winning this game, right? Of course, you can talk about the holding calls. Jermaine Johnson got obviously held by the Chiefs tackle on that big 3rd and 22 conversion that Patrick Mahomes ran for. And that Sauce Gardner pass interference is up in the air, in my opinion. I mean, Patrick Mahomes threw a jump ball. Michael Carter came down with it as an interception. I mean, the ref waited for the play to happen to finally throw the flag. I mean, it is what it is. You're not supposed to be grabbing the receiver above the shoulder pads when the ball's in the air or prior to the balls being passed. But at the same time, man, I've seen, plays like that not get called whatsoever. So, the refs definitely had some thing to say about this past game. But nevertheless, the Chiefs move on to 3-1. The Jets are sitting at 1-3. But I think they should still feel confident about a potential wild card berth heading into the rest of this season. Also, real quick, let's cap this off with another New York team, the New York Giants. Man, they lost in embarrassing fashion against the Seattle Seahawks. They got their ass beat, torn apart. They were embarrassed. They really just put up such a shameless performance, in my opinion. Most notably, the Giants' offensive line and their receiving department. Man, when are they going to help out their quarterback, Daniel Jones? I understand Daniel Jones is a mid quarterback, right? He's not good enough to, uplift the deficiencies of this team. He's a middle of the pack guy. He's a game manager that got paid a lucrative deal this offseason. A lot of fans are saying, well, maybe the Giants shouldn't have paid him. Well, they had to pay him because they had no other choice at the quarterback position. They weren't in position to draft a quarterback in the top 5. They didn't have the draft capital to trade up. And there was no other free agent quarterbacks out there they could have traded for. Maybe someone like, Derek Carr they could have traded for. Maybe they could have gotten the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes, you know what I'm saying, with the whole Lamar Jackson hold out the contract. But nevertheless, man, they had to stick to their guns. They had to bring back Daniel Jones because that was the right decision to make financially and team-wise. But however, we've seen so far they have yet to build a substantial offensive line around him. Yes, Andrew Thomas is a stud, but he wasn't playing. Saquon Barkley is a stud as well, but he wasn't playing. So outside of those two, this offensive line, this offense in general, is terrible. Evan Neal so far in this tenure with the Giants has been abysmal, man. He's been a bust of a pick, right? The interior of the offensive line is trash as well. The receiving department is bad, all right? They have a bunch of wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s. Darren Waller has been underwhelming since he's been traded to this team. I mean, Jalen Hyatt doesn't even get involved. He's supposed to be that big time deep threat as a rookie receiver, in my opinion, but he doesn't even get involved offensively. I mean, Brian Dable and Mike Kafka have done nothing to help out Daniel Jones so far this season. And it's pretty embarrassing to watch. So going forward, I think if this continues to happen, right, I mean, giving up 11 sacks in the game is crazy, right? But if this continues to happen, I think Joe Schoen, the general manager for the Giants, has a big decision to make. Do you continue to ride out with Daniel Jones and use your top 5 draft pick, which you're more likely going to get because the team's going to finish with a terrible record? Do you use that on more help for Daniel Jones to continue to build around him and you have him tied for one more year at least before you can give up on him and not have to pay that guaranteed money and be in cap hell? Or do you say, fuck it, we'll take the hit. Daniel Jones will trade you to the Falcons or whoever, you know what I'm saying, the Pittsburgh Steelers, whoever out there that needs a quarterback that's not willing to really go into a full rebuild mode in it because they have a lot of talent still. Do you just trade him away to a contender or a team that needs a quarterback and just say, fuck it, we're going to get a real franchise quarterback for Brian Dable? And that's those are the two options, in my opinion, man. They have some big decisions to make coming into the season, but through the first 4 weeks of the NFL year, it's been bad, man. They should be winless right now, but unfortunately, fortunate for them, they faced a Cardinals team that wasn't accustomed to holding big-time leads. So, it's just very, very sad to see, man, both New York teams going through right now, but most importantly, the Giants, because they're coming off a season where they went to the playoffs. They had a coach of the year in Brian Dable, and right now they're looking like, well, maybe they are too ahead of schedule, right? And they also like one of the worst head coaching teams or one of the worst coach teams in the NFL right now. So, a lot left to be desired about this team. We're only a quarter through. We'll see what happens going forward. But yeah, those are my quick hitters, my quick takes on some of these teams in the NFL, man. A lot of embarrassing things we're seeing out there for the Bears, Bengals, and Giants, but also some promising things for the Texans and also the Jets. They still have some light in that fire, man. So we'll see. But anyways, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for tapping in. I will be dropping my NFL Week 5 preview predictions later on this week, man. I just wanted to get a quick podcast out there and talk about some of the things, some of the headliners that I witnessed this past week 4, man. But until next time, thank y'all so much for tapping in with me. My links for all things you can follow me on are going to be in the description below. Thank y'all so much, man. Until next time, that is a wrap.